Cool. Well, let's get into it. It's rightly pointed out, half an hour always goes a lot faster than I thought. So listen, if you came here expecting like a super kick-ass polished presentation, you're in the wrong live stream. But if you want to see some stuff I think is pretty cool and in like totally hot off the presses, if you can even say that, you're in the right one. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So folks who've joined previous sessions might remember we've given some sneaks around the 3D based image composition stuff we're working on. So I'll show you some of that. And there's also a technology called Controlnet, which is something you can wire into different generative models. So it's not an Adobe specific thing, but I'll show you what we're playing with there. Obviously work in progress, but maybe you can give me some ideas as we go, kind of have some fun with it. Probably we'll get like bizarre results, which is, as usual, why these things aren't just shipping as is. But sometimes bizarre is fun. So hopefully you guys are seeing my screen. And so Controlnet is kind of an umbrella term. And it's really a bunch of different techniques you can use to get more control or guidance over what people are, or what you're getting in your output. And so, by the way, I always have to put in this plug. But one of the things that is extremely helpful as we plan the roadmap for the different modules and for the site itself is getting your feedback, because then we can use that and take it to leadership and be like, yeah, we're not just making this stuff up. So you probably heard me plug that before, but it's really helpful. So you can obviously, chime in on Discord, but if you take a minute to go over to community.adobe.com, there's a Firefly specific forum. There's feature requests, and you can upvote those. So I mention it in this context because this has been really helpful in guiding us towards introducing favorites, which we did 2 weeks ago, I think. Time is very fluid in my head. And hopefully you like those. Obviously, it's just a first step. We've always said they're meant to enable like community powered sharing. So right now they're just local only. If you haven't found it, if you're in just pull up the Firefly site. When you're creating something, sorry, my whole life is like logging from one Adobe. Sorry, logging in from one Adobe account into another. But anyway, the number one feature request for a long time has been for some way to like have your prompt history and or save cool things you make. And so favorites are a piece of that puzzle, we think. And you'll see up here now at the top, you've got this favorites tab that only appears once you've logged in. But just as a refresher for folks who haven't seen it, you can go in and you can get this car and you're like, oh, what would that look like if it was done in synthwave? And you hit generate. By the way, I found out this morning something like 85% of the generations people do have a style applied, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like neither here nor there, just kind of cool. It kind of speaks to the fact that having more of these things in a visual surface is really powerful, like helps people explore what the possibilities are. Anyway, but if I zoom in here in the upper right, you've got this little heart. And so I'm going to heart that one just for the sake of demo, and I'm going to hit the heart here. Then this thing says view favorites. So if I click view favorites, now you've got the two that I just made, and I've got these previous ones. And as you'd expect, I can hit try prompt and I can create that session. So just a little side plug for favorites. Again, if you like them, let us know. If you don't, please let us know. And it says somebody's not seeing my screen other than rotating purple squares. If other people are having trouble, let me know. Just speak up in the chat. So I mentioned that in the context of these feature requests. So that, where did they go? Anyway, it's around here. But suffice it to say, please do upvote things. So the second most popular thing, which is now becoming the number one thing, if you think we've kind of addressed the first one, is uploading a reference image to guide the process of making stuff. And so that's where this Controlnet stuff comes in. And so really there's a bunch of ways you can get more controls. One is just like physically where things go. So you might notice with these AI image creation modules or models, sometimes they're not super precise. Like they're really bad at counting, and they're sometimes bad at like spatial positioning, and they're putting like a red circle on a blue box on a green horseshoe or something. They totally get the layout wrong. So as a human, obviously you know what you meant, and if you could just give it a little bit more control about where things go, that would be really powerful. The other thing that would be powerful is to be able to use various images for styling. And so being able to reference like Starry Night from Van Gogh, for example, and get like the colors and maybe some of the brush qualities would be pretty amazing. So let me show you what that might look like. So let me take this, King's Lair, Viking, yada yada. So this is a real photo. I should mention. So up in the upper right, you've got this input image. That's something you can't do in the Firefly site today. But don't take any of this UI design super seriously just because it's all works in progress. It's really kind of meant for internal testing. But based on that image input and a bunch of text, you can say King's Lair from Ancient Viking, yada yada, dim by fire, intricate architecture. And so now you can see you have a lot more control over the structure of what you're going to get, but you can start mixing in these parameters. The also cool thing is you'll see under these image conditions, there's history brain, making sense of math, but essentially, they're leveraging the to then mixing with the generative process. So it's the same settings, but now you're starting to get this like really cool, like thick, gloopy paint texture and color palette applied to the image. So really, it's not fundamentally changing what image creation is. It's just giving a lot more precision to hopefully make it more precise and personal. And so, feel free, jump in, comments, questions as I go. Another really powerful thing you can do is use this. Oh my God. By the way, I always say, like, when I'm on my deathbed, I will be hearing the little demo stock music we have in our videos, and I will also be imagining all of these login screens because this is my life. Sorry. I think it's because we have these different builds internally. Oh, please don't not work. All right, bear with me. So now's a good time to compose any thoughts or questions if you got them. And if this doesn't work, I am not offline, robot. Output, because I did the Julia Child trick of like pre-generating stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron. All right, let's try this one more time. And, all right, if the Friday demo gods are with us, we'll be able to log in. If they're not, we'll just cut over to some of the baked output. And I'll show you the 3D stuff is also cool. So again, the 3D tech is conceptually similar, right? You're just using more methods to guide the process than you would have simply by text or text plus some sense. So hopefully people find it like a very natural incremental evolution. And thank you, lawyers, for making us put in like 19 levels of nested things. All right. So here's what's cool. One of the things we heard, we did research, farmers are middle-aged white guys, but there's a lot of farmers who are not middle-aged white guys. And so sometimes, what you have in your mind's eye or what you can get through something like stock isn't as rich as what you'd want. So a cool technique you can use here is using a starting image. I don't know if this came specifically from stock. It probably did. And now you're getting a bunch of guys who are conditioned on this input image, with similar pose, similar demographics. But as you'd imagine, you can then start varying the properties of that. So if I say a photo of an older woman on a farm, sunny day, it's going to mix that prompt as you'd expect an image. And now, instead of having this dude, you got these ladies. And really powerful way. It's also good way to get the range of options that you would want in imagery. Obviously, this stuff gets touchy. Just be honest, like in some of the testing, there's things people are comfortable with in terms of transforms or generations, things they're not. Anything around changing people's ethnicity, changing gender can be sensitive. So here, honestly, getting guidance from you guys and from other customers is super important, right? We want this stuff to feel good because I think people's hearts are in the right place. And sometimes, maybe instead of having a photo of a real individual that's then seeming to be transformed, maybe it would be better if that was just like a mannequin, right? Or it's kind of a blurry depth map. Again, technologically, it's doing the same thing, but if that feels less weird, we should talk about that because obviously we want folks to be comfortable with this. Let me upload an image, and give me 1 second. I just got to find it on my desktop. So somebody's asking, so can you talk about Controlnet implementation, or is it still secret? So it is unreleased. The fact that I'm saying it right now means it's not secret in the sense that like we're starting to talk about it. For some weeks I've been talking about the fact that we want to do this, and we're certainly experimenting with it. Let me just pull this up so you don't have to look at nothing while we go. But yeah, here's an example where you're taking one photograph, and if all you want to do is style transfer, this can be a really powerful way to do that. So yeah, definitely not a secret that we're working on this stuff. One of the many challenges we have is we're trying to take what we have already in market and get that to a lot more people. Stay tuned. There's some really exciting news coming there. We're also trying to bring it to more product surfaces. Again, stay tuned. Like very soon. Some cool stuff to tell you about. And at the same time, we're also trying to make it deeper. And so, as you'd imagine, these things are somewhat in conflict with each other. But here you can see, just taking this image from Greece, you can get some cool styling. Here I found the image I wanted to show. So there's this famous image from I think the 20s, and I want to use that as an input, and I want to say young and excitedly yelling. And you'd imagine, right, to get this particular pose just using text would be really hard. Now, as you can see, it is not ready to ship. You get some pretty freaky results. And there's a lot of tuning to be done. But the point is we're introducing the ability to specify more control, more ingredients that you can then start to mix together. Another thing you can do is then to start mixing in specific individuals, which gets really interesting. So let me just, well, I don't know. I was going to try to pull up a picture of my boss's boss. Let's go ahead and do that. So head of AI, Alexander Kostin, just to give you a sense of what he looks like in real life, it's this guy. And he's really been the driving force between, around a lot of what we've been doing with generative imaging over these last months and years. And so, all right, so kind of snapshot that face. So Alexandru and some of the other execs at Adobe have had their images brought in and done custom training. And so let me now imagine we want this farmer, but instead of it just being some random guy in a field, I want it actually to be Alexandru. So let's give that a shot. And so down here from my actors, I'm going to choose Alexandru. And it is obviously a little slower. Such is the way of running things not in production. So this might take a little bit of time, but really, this is sort of conceptually similar to what you would get via apps where you can like make an AI avatar, right? You go select 5, 10, 15 selfies, whatever the right number is. And, in those cases, they're then just kind of like making a scene that doesn't necessarily have much control for you, but it gives you, 20 different avatars or 200 or whatever. And so what you're seeing here is, again, based on this guy sort of compositionally, with this pose, with this stuff in the background. It's a sunny day. And now, Alexandru, as you know over here, is being featured as one of the actors in this scene, right? So folks are asking, like, can I get this now? No is a short answer. Keep your fingers crossed. We can get it into your hands as soon as possible. Like I say, there's still plenty of like fine tuning around the quality that we want to do to make it more useful. But we want to get it in your hands so you can guide us. Like, hey, how good is it? Do you want it, tuned further? And I want Outlook to not bother me, which would be great. Okay, so let me just show you some of the other output you can get. So here's David Wadwani, one of our other execs. This is sort of more impressive if you know the people individually. But again, just by taking in his image, I don't think in this case I even used a specific exemplar, but those are independent ingredients. Here's Eli. This is a little bit more weird. He's another of our leads. But again, tapping him as one of the actors, you can get these results. And here I took that same constructivist image. I just wanted to do some mutations with the color palette, but also thought, well, can I make a realistic human using that same image? And the answer was, yeah, pretty realistic. Again, there's some artifacts, there's work to be done, but kind of pick the characteristics of the person you're looking for, and you can get them in that pose, which we think, again, super powerful. But like, please tell us what you think. What of these things is most valuable? What's like less interesting? That's all really, really good for us. And you already saw this, but there's Alexandru. Here's one I really like, where I just took this, if I can get it, basically, I can't get it to zoom, but you get the idea. I've just got some like black and white line art, and then applied different coloring, different prompts. You can imagine, or at least I can imagine this being super powerful. Like if you're doing logo design, you've basically just like got a black and white logo, and you want to do some cool things. In fact, if you've attended previous ones, so this was an external implementation of Controlnet that I was playing with, and just like taking logos, like, oh, take this, railroad logo, and can I turn it into something interesting? Different color, different texture. Probably my favorite one is just taking some very simple line art from a stock site and turning it into these different transformed results. So if you're interested in playing with this stuff today, just look up Controlnet. I can try to like paste a link to a cool prototype. In fact, let me just do that. I always try to give credit where it's due. Technology, sorry, get to see all my bookmark chaos. And I don't know who to credit with this, but it's really cool. In fact, so play with that one. And I love this other project somebody did where they took logos and they used these techniques to do things like, take the Starbucks logo and then get the sort of Nicole Kidman photorealistic or illustrated version. Or, I think I like this one most, take Burger King and turn it into an actual burger with like dripping sauce and lettuce, like super crazy stuff. So again, like getting the actual Burger King logo, particularly in Firefly, which isn't trained on, these copyrighted images, would be essentially impossible if you just were typing text. And sometimes, we meet people who've generated like tens or hundreds or thousands of images with various generative models. And, that's cool. I hope they're having fun, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of storage and then going and finding things. And so if you could just have more precision during the process, we think that'd be amazing. Okay. Like I say, time is kind of blowing by. Let me show you the 3D stuff, because that's super cool too. So, and then if time permits and you want to hang out, I can take requests because I have a build running. But in the interest of time, let me just go ahead and play this. Sorry, I'm kind of showing the output first, but I'll give you a sense of what we got cooking. So call it gingerbread because that's the demo version that we have on the website. So here the idea is like, well, I want to build up a city. I want to have it have a very kind of specific orientation. I want to have like this drone shot look. Again, you could describe that in text, but if you can give it more cues, that's pretty powerful. And so under the hood, what's happening here is you're making a depth map. So because, we know how far away all the objects are, we know we can, basically it's like a black and white channel. Let me pause this because I'm maybe do it justice. And so just by looking at essentially like the black and white values for distance, you can then feed those into the process along with, here it says skyscrapers in Chicago next to the river. And you go ahead and let that run, and it thinks about it, and you're getting multiple versions. Sometimes the quality is pretty amazing. Sometimes it's a little bit wobbly. Again, this is all the kind of stuff that we're working on. But experience-wise, you can see you've got all of these just like very simple primitive shapes. And you can dial up this different version. All right. All right. And now here's another one I made, which I was playing with this sort of sea monster. And, because I'm such a noob when it comes to 3D, I was like, well, what are the simplest things I could play with? There's a donut and there's a ball. All right. But when you play with the donut, oh, shoot, that was weird. Oh, really? Oh, oh, okay. That's, yeah, let me just restart QuickTime Player. It seems, all right. Look, I'm always amazed that any of this stuff works ever, but it doesn't work always. All right. Sorry, it's giving me QuickTime errors. But did you see the one with the city? Did that at least play? Oh, oh shit. I'm sorry, guys. Please holler, holler sooner. All right. If it doesn't work, I'll just show you in my browser, but trust me, it's really cool. But I think there must be a conflict between QuickTime and screen sharing with Discord. So I'll bring up a recent. All right. Are you seeing this little box moving around? No, you're still just seeing the blog, huh? All right. Okay. All right. Let me do this. Okay. So I'll bring them next time. I had some. How about now? Are you seeing a world with like, yeah? Okay. Okay. Wait. So you said the blog, or you see like actual like 3D shapes and things? Okay. Cool. All right. All right. So I will try. I will try to replicate this. And again, sorry that last thing probably didn't make a ton of sense. Without seeing what I was trying to show. But yeah, so the idea is you're using these very, very simple objects. Here, I think I made 2 copies. Let me try that again. To define what's in the scene. So conceptually, it's very much like what I was showing with using a photo. It just happens to be using these 3D objects. And so let's see if I can scale this guy. And I'm just going to duplicate that and move it over here. All right. You can readily tell why I was trying to go with the pre-canned version, so I couldn't make too many mistakes. But let me now say like so I'm saying an impressive sea monster on an angry ocean. See how it goes. And keep your fingers crossed. We'll get something cool. And if we don't, I promise I'll come back next week and I'll show you how it's supposed to look. I also have some like baked output versions. Oh, okay. All right. Hopefully you're seeing some sea monsters, something that looks sea monsterish. And so just by putting in these like incredibly dirt simple shapes like a donut and a ball, and then giving it the idea of what I want to see, I'm able to get, I don't know, some like kind of interesting compositions. So as you keep hearing me repeat, there's a ton of refinement and additional power we want to get into. But even with this, this is I think still pretty fun. Here was my OG attempt at this, and I got this result pretty quick. This to me is like pretty impressive and painterly. Sometimes the results are like less so, but again, that's why we're not shipping yet. We want to refine it. We want to get in your hands. Here I was like literally just taking an armchair and putting a pumpkin on top of it. Here I put in like a ghost and a snowman. Again, some of these visuals not great, but you get the core idea, right? Which is like whether you're using a photograph, you're using a sketch, you're using a 3D object, all of these things are just more ingredients to give you more power and more control over the compositions and the outputs that you get. And yeah, well, by next week, I'll definitely have more to show you because I couldn't show you some of it today. But yeah, hopefully interesting. Any quick thoughts, questions, stuff before we wrap? I go full om nom nom mode lately. Hopefully that's the sea monster. Oh shoot! See, I want those back. Yeah, again. Let me just see what happens this time if I refresh. At least they were hopefully recorded. Oh, sure. No, no. So all the training we do is on Adobe stock and um, like public domain um, sources. So there's a lot of like sort of different buckets, and there's also a lot of retraining that goes on. But the TLDR is like, no, we're not training on the stuff you share with us. Uh, and then there's also, so are you working on Scribble as well? Yeah, so that's a whole other thing. Maybe next week I can show some of those experiments. I always have to, make sure the engineers and teams are cool with sharing stuff. But yeah, I think another great modality, is just, instead of having to upload an image or a photo um, from externally, you could, conceivably just like draw something there. And it's like, oh, I want the blue region to be water. I want the green region to be grass. Make me a composition based on that. So there's a ton of ways you could think about exploring the possibilities. Does Firefly know what some Pokemon are? I would not expect so. You all might have tried this, but if you type in like Mickey Mouse, like you'll get something, but it's not going to be the Mickey Mouse you expected, and that's an intentional design decision because we're just not training on that data because it's copyright and therefore it's not in stock. But this is the interesting angle and something I should probably touch on. By using these various sort of ControlNet powered techniques, obviously you can then start bringing in things. Like you could bring in a 3D Mickey Mouse if you wanted to, right? Or you could bring in, an arbitrary image. Part of why we didn't start there is the ethics get a little bit murkier just because it's like, well, okay, if I'm uploading my own photo that I took, of course, like I took that and I can do with it what I want. Maybe if I take a Van Gogh, right, that's it's not somebody who's alive, the image is well known, that's like ethically cool if I want to like kind of get that color palette. If, however, I'm downloading something from a living artist who's trying to make a living and I'm using that to condition my composition, that starts to get a little touchier. So I think we don't have like bulletproof technical solutions for sort of determining who owns what and making sure you can only do things with like certain stuff. I'm guessing what we'll end up with, and again, we could really use your input on this, is we'll probably just put things in the UI which encourage people to be mindful, to respect the IP of other people, try to do the right thing. In specific cases, like if it's a download from Adobe stock, well, then we know where it came from. And, we can surface something and be like, hey, if you want to use this, you need to purchase it so that the creator gets paid. But if it's just some, random image somebody downloaded, then, it's really, it's kind of, scouts honor on the user. But anyway, one of the reasons we just started with only making things from scratch from the jump was so that we could kind of sidestep those issues for a little while. But they're definitely super important. And as you can tell, with the number of people requesting the ability to upload images, it's a powerful thing and people can use it in ethical ways. We just want to try to help push people in that direction. And will the full resolution have any limitations on size and of output? Yes, there is a paper called Gigagan. I'm totally, as I do, just deviating from the demo. And I'll pull this up. But this is some really cool. Oh shoot, I haven't even blogged it yet. Gosh, I as much as I blog, let me just pull it up. Adobe Gigagan. But it's essentially upsampling technology. And so being able to take small images and then being able to create these really, beautiful high-res versions. This is actually already being used, as I understand it, behind the scenes. The way these diffusion models work, the original image is quite tiny, and then successively we upsample it to get, like 1024 res. But in principle, you could go a lot beyond that. And so one thing I think we will find helpful is if you can tell us, not give me unlimited resolution, which would be great. Of course, we want to do that. But like, how important is that relative to other things we could be doing? Like, is it more important to have a really high res single photo, or would it be more important to synthesize things as video? Not to say that's, immediate offering or something, but like being able to do, in painting, filling a region and being able to do that on successive frames. So there, it's a different technical challenge. You're trying to make sure that it's smooth as you go from frame to frame. These are just the trade-offs we always have to make, because of course the answer is, well, we want it all, we want it now. But yeah, like, how important is having higher resolution, let's say for print work, relative to other things? I think also what we'll find is that people are going to do a lot of sort of localized editing. And so even if the output of the system isn't itself totally high, if you could, just act on a region within a photo, I think that would be really powerful. And then the photo can be arbitrarily large. If the region isn't one immense patch, maybe the resolution we've got already is sufficient. But really, you tell us. All right. Well, listen, we already flew past. Hap, thank you for joining. And you were right. The half an hour goes way quicker than I imagined.
Always.
Yes. Anything you wanted to add before we let folks go?
Nope, just kind of checking in to see how everyone's holding up.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, folks, for the feedback. Yeah, we're super excited. I promise we'll get this in your hands as soon as we can. It's just all the horses are trying to get out of the barn at the same moment, which is a little bit tricky, but we'll get there. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. See you next week. Bye.